Well, good evening and welcome to EBN Weekend Edition on this beautiful Sunday, the 16th of July, at the beginning of the week that promises to have a lot of drama if what the politicians are saying is anything to go by. Well, we definitely pray that sanity will prevail and will not have the kind of madness that we had last week on Wednesday. My name is Frederick Njiri. Let's start off by taking a look at the highlights, right?
It's up to you. I will not tell you to stop. It's up to you to decide. But if you get persuaded to proceed with what we saw last week, you will have a day like no other.
We are ready for you. Government now tells goons who caused violence and looted property ahead of Wednesday's demonstrations.
Freedom of demonstration, that freedom of also taking care of those who are demonstrating shall not be infringements against the joy and livelihood of others.
Such leaders call for sanity ahead of Azimio demonstration slated for Wednesday.
Green continent of the future, and we are determined to lead our march into this future as a united, empowered contributor of sustainable solutions for global problems.
We need to free ourselves from mental slavery. President Ruto now tells the African continent at Njiri, Nairobi.
Watu vile wamefurushwa ndio sasa msitu imeanza kuharibika. Because ile custodians ya forest custodians imetolewa kwa msitu ikaharibika.
Now welcome back. The Interior Cabinet Secretary Kithure Kindiki has warned those planning to cause chaos and looting during the planned Azimio demonstration starting Wednesday that they will face the full force of the law. Kithure, who had toured Tharaka Nithi County, says the law allows all parties to hold political parties and that the government will defend that right. But those who infringe on other people's right will not be tolerated. Azimio leader Raila Odinga announced that the coalition will hold demonstration for 3 days starting Wednesday. Last week, over 10 people lost their lives during the demonstration. The president says that this will not be allowed. These are the scenes that became synonymous with the Azimio demonstration last Wednesday, as demonstrators turned violent, destroying property and in some cases looting supermarkets and injuring innocent people, with the government saying these were hired goons.
Anaanza kusema unajua mimi si mtu mbaya. Saa hii nimeona amepanga maandamano. Na mimi nataka nimwambie rafiki yangu Uhuru, hata wewe wachana na huyu mzee. Waacha kumpatia pesa ya kununua watu wa Mungiki wachome Nairobi. Wewe umekuwa rais, wewe kuwa muungwana. Tulikuunga mkono wakati ulikuwa rais wetu. Wewe wachana, uliunga mtu kitendawili mkono tukamwangusha, wachana na yeye, na usipowachana na yeye hata wewe tutakusafirisha na huyo kitendawili wako. Ama namna gani jamani? Si Uhuru Kenyatta sisi tulimsaidia. Saa hii anapanga kuchoma Nairobi. Nairobi imemkosea nini? Sisi tulimsaidia akiwa rais. Ama namna gani jameni?
Now the government says it will not sit back and watch the goons turn the country into a looting paradise, with the Interior CS Kithure Kindiki warning that those planning to cause chaos will be dealt with mercilessly.
People who are planning to cause mayhem in Kenya, it is up to you. I will not tell you to stop. It's up to you to decide. But if you get persuaded to proceed with what we saw last week, you will have a day like no other. Ni hayo tu kwa sasa. Mimi sina mambo mengi. Hatujapiga marufuku mikutano ya siasa. Watu waendelee na siasa every day. Ukipata watu wa kuongelesha, waongeleshe. Kama hawana kazi ya kufanya na wanataka kukusikiza kila siku ni sawa. There is no problem.
President William Ruto has accused the Azimio leader Raila Odinga of trying to get into government by force.
Wewe ulipanga mapinduzi, Wakenya wakakufa. Wewe ukakuja ukaangaisha Mheshimiwa Kibaki. Ile kazi angefanya, mkeka, choo, sijui nini, muda ikapotea. Ndio huyo umekuja ukadanganyana pale kwa Jubilee, Big Four ikapotea, BBI, sijui nini, ukora, tukaingia kwa madeni. Saa hizi ndio huyu wewe unapanga maafa, unapanga fujo, unapanga Wakenya waharibu mali. Ati kwa sababu wewe umeshindwa. Ulishindwa, umeshindwa, utashindwa. Sasa jipange kutoka hapa.
These as different Kenya Kwanza leaders called on the opposition to cease the demonstrations, with others calling on former President Uhuru Kenyatta to rethink the Azimio strategy.
All what we are requesting His Excellency Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta, kindly let the government of William Ruto be. Help. Ongea na huyu your friend, the former Prime Minister Raila Odinga, because the cost of living will not be brought down by doing maandamano.
Tumeona mali ikiharibiwa. Hiyo expressway ilikuwa ni legacy yetu Jubilee. Sasa wameenda wakavandalize, na tena tumesikia mamilioni ya pesa itatumika. Hiyo milioni itatolewa kwa Raila ama kwa sisi wananchi? So we are against, na ni vizuri hata hao wakuwe fined,
kwa sababu walikuwa wanataka change. Na change
to liberate ourselves as we have always done. It has never been easy. It will not be easy, but it has to be done. With the unity and commitment, we will force Ruto to give Kenyans a good deal. We will shortly communicate the third wave and the next course of action. With the unity, we shall overcome.
Religious leaders have called for restraint, urging the political elite to place the country at the heart of everything.
Can initiate, but also it depends on the two and other opposing parties to agree that they can come together and discuss. But the church and the interfaith group are always available. Freedom of demonstration, that freedom of also taking care of those who are demonstrating shall not be infringements against the joy and livelihood of others. So we ask also our security people to be very cautious and professionally to handle the matters as they come.
You know, I pray that Wednesday is not going to be as crazy as it was last week on Wednesday. I was talking to a fellow friend who was telling me that, you know, we are playing the Russian roulette with the future of this country. We're just at the precipice, and we are playing around, and we may not like what we get ourselves into if we go that direction. Well, Africa is on the spotlight again, and this time President William Ruto held a meeting that was attended by 10 presidents who jetted into the country for the 5th Media Coordination Meeting of the African Union, regional communities and regional mechanism, telling them that the time was ripe for Africa to chart its own course. The president told the meeting that the process of unifying the continent must be driven and financed by Africans. Ruto insisted that the first thing that needed to be transformed was the African Union. The president regretted that over 5 decades after independence, the continent still relies on external funding to drive its agenda. He says over 60% of the African Union programs are actually financed by foreigners. He was addressing the 5th Media Coordination Meeting of the African Union, regional economic communities, the regional mechanism, and the African Union member states.
Excellencies, if African solutions to African challenges and opportunities are to be more than a slogan, We must have a strong voice in the G20, defining Africa's innovation and ideas, and we must also have unified action by African leaders to disrupt the unacceptable status quo. We applaud the strong voices of President Ruto, President Macky Sall, and President Ramaphosa at the recent summit of a new global financial pact in Paris. You're here today to discuss, among other very serious issues, the African Union's reforms, the second 10-year plan of Agenda 2063, governance issues, and the work of the regional economic communities and mechanisms. As you do so, you will need to ensure that your cohesive voice and common positions come together to shape the upcoming G20 meeting, the UN General Assembly, and the SDG Summit. It will also inform the Climate Action Summit, the commemoration of the UN Declaration of Human Rights at 75, and the World Bank IMF fall meetings on reform, and then the last of the meetings of the year, the Paris climate stocktaking at COP28.
Continent that is going places. The young, clean, green continent of the future, and we are determined to lead our march into this future as a united, empowered contributor of sustainable solutions for global problems. We are reasoning together, generating effective solutions together, implementing them together, facing our challenges head on together, making progress and getting results. This is what has brought Africa's implementation leadership to Nairobi, and the sum total of the agenda of the 5th Mid-Year Summit. I want to celebrate all of you who are here today, not just for making time to be here, but also for the work you do every day in taking the Pan-African Unity Project forward. For this is what the integration agenda is all about. Whether we are talking about regional economic communities or mechanisms, or the broader continental effort, the unity of African people is our primary goal. I commend His Excellency President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi, President of the Arab Republic of Egypt, for successfully chairing the Heads of State and Government's Orientation Committee, which has effectively steered AUDA-NEPAD in its momentous breakthrough in achieving the Agenda 2063 aspiration of consolidating regional and continental integration. I also thank President El-Sisi for successfully hosting the African COP, or the Implementation COP as it was called.
Well, that's the president speaking to the African Union and other regional bodies about how we as a people, as a continent, need to be independent. I remember somebody was saying we need to free ourselves from mental slavery. Now, later on in the show, we'll be having a conversation with Bernard Mulwa, who is the CEO, Futures Investment and Cooperative Society Limited. We want to talk about the kind of effect that, the demonstrations that are being called for by the opposition are likely to have on the economy, and probably is there a better way of having this addressed. All that will be coming up later on in the show. Now, the United Nations once said that the next war is going to be a war over resources. And that's the reason why leaders from Isiolo County have cautioned their counterparts in Wajir against initiating water projects within their county, saying this could lead to conflicts over resources between the pastoralist community residing near the border area. Isiolo Governor Abdi Guyo stated that there are several areas within Wajir country that are already facing difficulties accessing this precious commodity.
Hiyo ni kutengeneza unnecessary tension between this neighboring community. Sisi ni mandugu, Mwenyezi Mungu ametuweka majirani, tutaendelea kuwa majirani, kwa hivyo tusichokorane.
Sasa hiyo ni kuleta uhasama ambayo haitakikani, na tutashirikiana kuhakikisha kwamba wale ambao wako na nia mbaya kama hiyo, hatua itachukuliwa dhidi yao.
right? Some of the things that we need to take care of. Now, Education Cabinet Secretary Ezekiel Mochogu has announced that the government will begin paying the debt owed to the 2022 Kenya National Examination Council candidates this week. Speaking at the launch of the Education Day held at Kangaru Boys in Embu County, Mochogu stated that a budget of 2 billion shillings has already been set aside to ensure the full payment of the 2022 NEC debt. Furthermore, contractors who are awarded contracts for the construction of classrooms for the competency-based curriculum, or CBC, started receiving their fees totaling 2.5 billion shillings from the ministry. Despite the developments, Mochogu mentioned that the ministry will employ 25,000 teachers this year, in addition to the 30,000 teachers hired last year.
Wale walitusaidia marking the 2022 national exams, lakini sasa kupitia kwa Mheshimiwa Rais wa Jamhuri ya Kenya tumepewa bilioni 2 kutoka wiki ingine. Mimi nitawalipa wote wale ambao walikuwa wanalipwa, sasa watulie. Najua imechukua muda kidogo, lakini wote watalipwa, na vile kwenda mbele hiyo nitaweka priority, mazingira yao itakuwa sawa, na vile malipo yao itakuja wakati ambaye inafaa.
We have a serious shortage of teachers. Every day school, day secondary school in our constituency is sponsoring close to 4 BOM teachers. These teachers have to be paid by the parents. You find a simple school is extending its school fees from the usual 12,000 Kenya shillings up to around 24,000.
Well, that's matters concerning education sector. And talking about the environment, remember later this year we'll have a conference in the country that will be talking about how to conserve the environment. And the decision by the government to lift the ban on tree felling is still drawing mixed reactions, with environmentalists and forest-dwelling communities criticizing the move. And now the environmentalists have launched a campaign together with the Sengwer community residing in the Embu forest to force the government to reverse the decision.
Shangaa sana sababu mwenye alikuwa ana-impose locking ni president wa sasa ambaye alikuwa deputy president kwa wakati huo. Na nakumbuka vizuri sana kuna task force iliyopewa kazi kuchunguza locking, ban of logging of trees in our forests.
Tuko kupoteza miti yetu ya kiasili kupitia tawa, kipuli, wasapi na vitu vingine ambaye sisi tukiwa ndani hatuna haja sana na hospitali, tuko na enough medicine.
Watu vile wamefurushwa ndio sasa msitu imeanza kuharibika, because ile custodians ya forest custodians imetolewa kwa msitu ikaharibika.
We've managed to scale up the conservation agenda, and His Excellency the Governor committed as a county through His Excellency the Governor that we will be growing and nurturing 60 million trees in 5 years in Elgeyo.
Now we're going to go for a short break. When we come back, we will have a conversation with Bernard Mulwa, who's the CEO of Futures Investment Cooperative Society Limited. We want to look at the kind of effect these demonstrations are likely to have on the economy. If you can remember, experts said that last Wednesday the country lost 3 billion shillings. What is likely to happen if we have the demonstrations for 3 days starting Wednesday? All that will be coming back in a couple of minutes or so as we get ourselves a cup of water. Don't go away.
regardless of how you have been shattered down, regardless of how you have been pulled down. Bwana Yesu atukuzwe. There is a promise. They were being promised. And our God is the same yesterday, today, and forever. Our God spoke then. Our God is speaking today. And He is speaking to you. Bwana Yesu atukuzwe. Regardless of how been pulled down, regardless of how your life have been shattered down, name it, you know it. Bwana Yesu atukuzwe. It doesn't matter. God said, behold, I'll bring it healthy. He will bring it back. He will bring back healthy to you. Bwana Yesu atukuzwe.
From the oldies to the latest song, on the Request Hour show, we play you the songs that you request. Whether ni reggae, rising up to take their place. Whether ni hip hop, for God is no estimate. Whether ni worship, any song, any genre that you want to listen to, we play it here on the Request Hour show. Join me, Alice Njiri, on this Wednesday and every Wednesday and Friday, only on EBN TV from 5 to 6 p.m.
Through the morning rush and the buzz, find a voice you can trust, a voice of reason, a voice of direction, and the voice of hope.
Good morning. Welcome to the Morning Live. I'm Cynthia Nanjala.
And I'm Sammy Adika, Rise and Shine Fox. We hope you are ready for an energizing start to your day.
Absolutely. We are here to bring you the latest headlines and trending news stories from the world of politics,
business and finance, health and lifestyle,
agriculture and sports.
So grab your coffee, sit back and get ready for a fantastic morning of engaging discussions and news segments.
Join us through our social media handles, #The Morning Live. This is Morning Live, exclusively on EBN TV.
In a fast-paced world filled with distractions, it's easy to lose sight of what truly matters: your relationship with God. Every Tuesday and Thursday, we take you on a transformative journey of building your faith, without which it's impossible to please God. A journey of introspection and discovery of who you are in Christ Jesus.
For you to walk with God, you should not crumble when you come under pressure. Kama umeokoka, sema umeokoka mpaka mbele ya president, mpaka mbele ya chief justice, mpaka mbele ya kila mtu. Hiyo ndio kuokoka ya ukweli. Kuokoka ya ukweli.
Enjoy a faith-filled environment of worship and ministry of the word every Tuesday and Thursdays from 9 a.m. with Reverend Felix Kevoy, exclusively on EBN TV.
Bwana Yesu asifiwe, watazamaji wa EBN. Kwa majina naitwa Pastor Julius Mutuko, na nataka kukaribisha kwa kipindi ambacho tutakuwa tukisikiliza neno la Mungu kila siku ya Ijumaa na Jumamosi kuanzia saa 3:30 jioni hadi saa 4:30 kila siku kwa lisali moja, na hivyo tukiangazia true worship ama kuabudu halisi, ambapo tukiangalia Biblia kitabu cha Yohana 4:23-24, Yesu alipokuwa akiongea na mwanamke Msamaria, alimwambia wakati unakuja ambapo watu watamwabudu Baba katika roho na kweli, kwa maana Baba ni roho ama Mungu ni roho, na yuwatafuta watu kama hao ili wakamwabudu. So jo nami tukaweze kujua kuabudu halisi ni nini kwa siku hizo. Karibuni nyote in Jesus name. Asanteni.
Now, welcome back to EBN Weekend Edition. And as promised, we're going to have an interview with Bernard Mulwa, who's the CEO of Futures Investment Cooperative Society Limited, as we look at the impact that the demonstrations are likely to have this coming week. I'd like to ask you a question. Do you support the demonstrations and the way they're being conducted? I already have my cup of water, so let me have a seat and join Mr. Mulwa right here. Yeah. There you go.
Thank you.
Karibu sana, Mr. Mulwa.
Thank you.
It's a strange situation that we find ourselves now. For me, it's feeling like deja vu. It's like we've been here before. And I must say we've been here before, where we are having demonstrations immediately after elections, and the demonstrations are very violent, affecting the economy, because for some strange reason, every time we have an election in Kenya, it looks as though it's a matter of life and death. And then shortly afterwards, we kind of have these demonstrations. First and foremost, I'd like to get your thoughts. What do you think about the whole thing about these demonstrations before we get into the effect that it's having on the country's economy?
Oh, thank you for the invite to the show. My view on the demonstration you're having, it looks like it's a long drawn-out political strategy looking at election to come, 5 years to come. If we go back to history, you see the current government. When President Ruto was deputy to President Uhuru, there was push and pull about politicking, early politicking, because President, and when he was then deputy president, he moved around the country.
The Tanga movement.
The Tanga movement. It was born. Now, there's similar to the current demonstrations, whereby the opposition team seems to have now taken the political stand to start campaigning early, but now they are doing it the other way around by bringing demonstrations. Because when you look at the issues they are bringing across, they don't have a constant. They keep on changing.
They keep on, it looks as though they really don't want a solution.
Exactly, yeah. So they don't have a common a constant agenda which can be canvassed, discussed, and a solution found. Because when you look at key issues, they are talking about cost of living. This government has not been in power for more than effective being in power. They have not been there for more than 6 months. So there is no way they would have introduced the problems we are facing. Yeah, we are seeing also even their first budget has been blocked, so they have not even begun their first budget. So there is no way you can say they are the ones who generated these problems. So we need to give them time to come up with their budget, implement, and we see then the change. Then we can question them, but they have not done that as yet. So anybody looking at it now will see this pure politicking because of what you are looking at 2027.
What's the possibility that, within this period of time, an impact would have been felt by policies implemented by President William Ruto's government?
It's difficult. It takes a turnaround of almost 3 years to get an impact in
3 years.
3 years to get economic policies impact. Okay, there are those who can get immediate, but the real economic impact, it takes really quite some time. And that's even some people argue that 5-year tenure of a government is not enough. And that's why most of them, you see, they are gone even for 10 years. Then you can really feel the real impact. Because look at even procurement procedures alone. By the time you get an idea, a project, and you go through procurement, it's taking more than 2 years. So to procure. So it's not easy to have an impact immediately. So and the governments run mainly when you change over, the incoming government will run on what has been there for some time before they can slowly start introducing their own policies, and then you start having impact. So it takes a while change that.
I was listening to an economic expert, I think it was Central Bank, that said that the demonstrations last week on Wednesday cost the country 3 billion shillings.
Yes.
How realistic is that? That's a lot of money.
Oh yes, my view is if you look at last year alone, Kenya raised GDP was 13.8 trillion.
The GDP.
The GDP, gross domestic product, is what you and me are able to produce.
The work that goes on. Yes.
Exactly.
The activity.
Yeah. Now, if you look at this year, it's projected to be 16 trillion. So if you account per day, that comes to 43 billion. So if there's no economic activity, there is shutdown. Of course, you expect maybe even if it is 50% or even 10% of that, 4 billion will be gone, even if it is just 10% of it. Yes. So central bank figures, the way they are saying 3 billion, I'm sure it is just an estimate because we didn't have time to really to correlate and look at all sectors. But it could be true. It could even be more because most sectors were not functioning. Yeah.
Because if you look at the transport sector,
yes,
majority of the traders within the CBD, within the urban areas,
yes,
now we are talking about Kitengela, we're talking about Mlolongo, and there's a lot of business that happens along there. The CBD was a completely, you know, it was a ghost.
No goes on.
Yes.
Yeah.
And in certain towns, Kisumu and other areas.
Actually, I would say 3 billion could be just the transport sector alone. If you go even to the
3 billion the transport sector.
We shut down that day. And if you go to informal sector like what happens in Gekomba, what happens in the, you know, all those sectors, then a lot was lost because even them they could not move. When you don't have transport, the other arms of economy do not work because communication is critical. So it really hurts the economy. Even Safaricom itself, transfer money must have also dropped because now what are you going to buy?
When you put it like that, you start seeing impact this hard. Because then that simply means Safaricom, as you're saying, the transfer of money because there was no business being done.
Exactly.
So the profits also
will be impacted negatively. So it's every sector of the economy was negatively impacted. So this is not a good thing for us to continue having this kind of demonstrations. It is simply economic sabotage if you are to continue with it.
That's a very strong statement you're making there. You are saying it's economic sabotage. That's a very heavy statement to make.
That is what it is actually, what it looks, because if you look at shutting the economy, not everyone who wants to participate in the demos, but the demonstrators are making sure the other people can't work. Then that's why now it becomes sabotage to the other economic sectors.
Now I'm thinking about, for us who went through what happened last week on Wednesday. So right now we're going to see more people keeping away from their workplace, keeping away. Majority of people will not go to do their business if Wednesday last week was anything to go by, because quite a number of people got stuck. I even have one of our member staff who told me because of the things they experienced, he doesn't think if Wednesday starts off the way it's going, he will come back because he won't be able to go back home. So anticipation of Wednesday, Thursday, Friday is going to have a major impact on the economy, isn't it?
Yes. We expect with what happened last Wednesday, it is put fear in people because you are seeing lives being lost. We are seeing people who are not concerned with the demos being affected. Others were injured. Others lost their properties. So myself, I had also to turn back. I was driving and people came on the road, so I had to drive back and everyone running at a skelter. So because of that, people are going to be scared. and because of that fear, then people will stay at home. So it's likely to have more impact. And when you lengthen it, then it means it is likely just to get worse and worse. It is really a bad state for the country for us to be in, and the political leaders, either side, need to come quickly and have a solution onto this issue.
Now, because the demonstrations are basically what the opposition says is because the cost of living is high, how is this helping in bringing down that?
Yeah, okay. For what they are saying is they have a right to protest, which is enshrined in the Constitution. But what you are not getting is the solutions. They are not offering alternative solutions. And the truth be said that even in the previous government, they had put subsidy to the mains, and we saw unga. They were saying unga would be sold at 2 kg would be sold at 100 shillings.
Yes.
But if you did check, you would find that only very few people got the unga which was being sold at 100 shillings. And even that government, when they were going out, they withdrew that subsidy because it was simply not sustainable. It could not be done. So when you look at it, then you find it's not even the new government which withdrew that. It was the previous government. Before the president was sworn in, it had not been withdrawn. So it means then everyone is noticing there is not a solution in this area, because the problem we have is it's
global.
It's global. It's not restricted to Kenya alone. The other day, I listened to an interview of the CEO of Kakuzi, who are doing exports of macadamia, and he was saying 70% of the exports go to Northern America, and now for the last 1 year now they are not getting as much orders as they used to get. The reason being that Americans, the power to purchase has gone down. They are not able to do snacking because macadamia is more of a snack. So they are not buying. So that has seen almost 60% drop of the export from Kenya. So you can see it is a global problem.
I was also being told about tea. The Iranian president was in the country just the other day, and Iran is one of the biggest, if not the biggest, consumer of our tea. And I was told because the sanctions that have been imposed on Iran by the US, so they don't have sufficient dollars. The economy of Iran had taken an impact because of the COVID and everything else that is happening in the country. So they're not buying as much tea as they are supposed to buy, or we expect them to buy. So the happenings of the world have taken a major impact on other countries, and we are suffering for it.
Yes, true. Every economy is suffering. We've seen, because of the same pressures, even in UK, they have sacked 2 prime ministers in a very short period.
Yeah.
And even the one who is there is because they now stopped. they got tired of sacking more. So the world is suffering because of one, with the COVID, logistics went down by between 20 to 40%. So the goods have become more dearer because transport in the world became more expensive. Quite a number of sectors also closed, so there was scarcity of goods. Then after COVID, now then we have the war with Russia and Ukraine, and these two parties produce almost 40% of the cereal and grain, also oil and all that. So when they are fighting, then it means most of those resources are concentrated within them, so they cannot be exported. So the world is starved of these supplies, and because of that, then everything has gone up.
Now, somebody would say, "So what?" I mean, we are in Kenya, and we will not wait until Russia's President Putin decides that he's going to stop the war in Ukraine. And we cannot wait until everything falls into place globally, because on a daily basis, it's getting almost impossible for us to buy, maize meal, to buy the things that just basically make us live barely. So what other options are open? Because we can't just sit down and que sera sera, whatever will be. Something has to be done to change the state.
Exactly, yeah. No, as a country, for food security, we need to address our supplies, and one of the things that the government can do is to look at different sources of cheaper means or cereals for that matter, where we can sustain our population, because we have deficit in our country. Even when we have best rains, we still have deficits. We are not able to produce enough to feed ourselves. The other ways which the government is attempting is to see whether we can also enhance the local production, which everyone is thinking maybe fertilizers and all that can also improve. We also need to move into mechanized, agriculture farming,
yes.
And see whether we can have large farms which tend to be more efficient. In fact, the countries you are discussing, that's how they do it. They do large-scale farming, and you find one farmer is doing more than 10,000 acres, and they produce for the nation and for the world. So those are the kind of strategies we need to look at to be able to enhance our food security. Also, looking at cheaper sources worldwide, there are other sources maybe we can also explore. But government takes time to sign new contracts to be able to see this. Then Kenya, so we also got a challenge of we don't want GMO food.
Yes.
So that also gives a challenge, because some of the countries have really moved to that. So if we don't want that, then we have to look for countries which do not produce that produce only non-GMO, which are also limited. So we have a challenge that. So unless we do it ourselves, then it is an issue, and that's why we are having this kind of shortages. Otherwise, if we open for GMO foods, then there's a lot of supply that we can get.
and what about, there was a time the parliament was, or the government was thinking about a policy, to introduce a policy whereby we limit the size of farms that can be subdivided. And then you tax, big farmers, big land farmers whose land lies idle. Right now we have people with hundreds of acres of land, and it's the who's who in this country. Hundreds of thousands of acres that are not productive at all. They just have a whole fence, and you can crisscross different counties, and the land is still there. It's just fenced.
Yeah.
Taxing this, do you think, taxing unproductive large lands, do you think that's a way of, will ensure that, people can put their lands into use, and these lands can actually help in securing the country's food security?
True. Land ownership world over is a key issue, and it drives production. Most of these governments where you have this high production, the land is owned by state.
The land is owned by the state?
Yeah, land is owned by state, and if you want to do economic activity, is when you can go and lease. Maybe you get 10-year lease, 15 years lease, 20-year lease, and even when you get that lease, it becomes even collateral, and you can go to the bank and get money against it to develop the farm. And there are policies which will make sure that the farmers are supported to do mechanized, farming and all that. And then they're able to produce. And then they discourage you owning the land, and it is idle. In the Kenya, we are the opposite, where people just want to own the land, and land has become like an investment itself, and you just wait for it to appreciate, and then you can encash by selling. So if we can discourage that and have minimal land ownership and let go what we are not using, and let those who can use it, then it can be a good thing so that we enhance our production. Because you also find maybe there are people who want to invest in the country, but they cannot get land because land is very expensive compared to the rest of Africa and some even European countries or Asia. Our land in Kenya is more expensive. It's more expensive even to buy, and because this is because inherently because of our policies.
Yes.
So if people could lease for a shorter period, then it becomes cheaper. And they can use it for economic activity, which will enhance production in our country. That is my view.
Now, back to the demonstrations that are starting this Wednesday. On Wednesday, we had close to 10 people, I believe could be more, that lost their lives, shot by police because some of them were engaged in criminal activities. These are people's sons. These are people's fathers, for that matter. These are somebody's. It's just not numbers. These are human beings, and it's very unfortunate that our politicians will not put their kids up front, but will cause us to put our kids up front to fight for their rights, to fight for their interests. If you had an opportunity to talk to the former Prime Minister Raila Odinga, to talk to Kalonzo Musyoka, Martha Karua, to also talk to President William Ruto and the Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua, what would you tell them?
Well, it's unfortunate that we've lost lives, and because of these political contests, which seem to be fashioned like politicians are fighting for the common mwananchi, which is not true. They are not really fighting for the common mwananchi. And what I would say, and what the church also is saying, because that's where we are points of reason, would really urge our politicians, our leaders, the elite, to settle their differences in a more non-violent means. And we know protests have been used in the past, but those who pursued non-violent means, Mahatma Gandhi, we know also in US, Martin Luther King, they pursued non-violent means, and those protests gave results. But when you call for protest, and then you find the people behind you or people under you giving money or instigating people to violence, then it loses the meaning, and it becomes now against the state, the citizens, and the citizens are being hurt. Citizens are not able to work. So we'll urge them if they can handle these issues in a more amicable way. Let us have harmony. Let us have discussions. Let us create forum where we can be able to discuss these things and sort out as elite without having to hurt the people we are saying that we are fighting for. Because Kenya is one, and you can see tempers are rising up. You can see now Sondru and Kericho, what is happening. You are likely to see that also in other areas coming up, because people now start going back to
their tribal
enclaves, which is going to have bigger problem. And if you make the country ungovernable, you cannot also come to govern, because already you'll have lost it. And that is what has happened in Sudan. That is what happened in Somalia. The two countries had a strong man. When he was kicked out, then the country became ungovernable, and that's why it starts. So we are worried about this, and we are urging them, please, let's save our nation. Please bring your grievances to the table. Let us negotiate on the table. There are so many options. Raila or Kalonzo can ask some of the MPs or senators to resign, and they themselves go to parliament. If that is the only what we have. I understand there was also a bill which was supposed to come to entrench official opposition in parliament. So all these, there are strategies that can be done to have them even have a say in the national affairs in a legitimate way. And their voice will still be heard, because the constitution really guarantees that. What really as citizens people are not happy about is when you bring violence and when you want to destroy the country, because you cannot control what other people will do. You make a statement as a leader, but you're not controlling the people who are throwing stones. People are blocking cars. People are blocking marketplace from operation. So that becomes now a problem. And we know no country has enough army or police to deal with the citizens. Yeah, nobody can be able to do that. So this idea of saying, oh, it is the responsibility of the government to protect us, is the responsibility of police to protect, it cannot be possible for any government to do that. You can see even in France, they are not able to control the crowds because the anger is so much. And the police are not able to control the riots. So no government is able to control. If the citizens' anger goes out, you cannot control it.
And actually, so you know, there was a meeting, I think, immediately after the demonstration that was called, I think, at State House, and the leaders of Parliament basically have called upon members of Parliament and governors in certain regions not to allow demonstrations to take place in those regions. And the dangerous thing is that now chances are members of Parliament are also going to get their own goons to protect their constituencies. So you're looking at a possibility of having different people, different groups engaging each other. These are people's children. You know, there's a gentleman who used to operate at Rabai Road, just outside the office. There's a Jericho stage there. The young man used to operate there, and he was shot last week on Wednesday, and he lost his life. He was part of a group that, you know, that was blocking that the road, and he was shot. A lot of things were happening. When you look at it right now, I mean, in retrospect, if he was given an opportunity to come back, he would not participate in that. Can you imagine what the family is feeling right now? These are people. These are not just, these are not pawns on a chess, you know, whatever you call it, a game that can be sacrificed like this. We need to think about this country. You mentioned about Sudan. Sudan right now is in trouble. Somali, for the last 30 years, after Siad Barre, the power man was removed, they've not known peace. Libya, they thought Muammar Gaddafi was the problem. After Muammar Gaddafi was removed, right now they are praying they can take back the hand of time. I mean, we can count the countries that have gone through this, and we are playing with the same, it's like removing a grenade and throwing it up, hoping that it won't explode.
Yeah, it's terrible. I think you can't be a patriot when you really want your country to burn. And I think all Kenyans need to rise and speak against this violence. These are our brothers, whether you're in position or in government, they are our brothers. But on a table, we can speak as a family and be able to sort out our issues. African culture, what our forefathers used to do is, even when there's no difference, they will talk and talk. No matter how long it took, they will talk until you have a solution. But going out there to burn the family home or to burn what we are supposed to eat ourselves, then it doesn't give a solution. You cannot start destroying what benefits us, because the people in opposition do not have another country. They don't have other roads they will travel. It is the same roads. So when they destroy these things, then it is not good. So I think as Kenyans, we have to keep on demanding that we need peace. People are there's what we call political messaging. And the political messaging to the masses, of course, they will listen to the leaders. And if you have leaders who have got huge following and they misinform, then the population will follow and act in the wrong manner. And that is why the president wants also messaging from the government side and the ruling party to go to their people and tell their people what is correct, what is the correct position, so that
the tempers are taken down.
Exactly,
and people can think straight.
Yeah, people can see what is being done to change things for better. And also to remove the disinformation. And I think also from the media, from church, from all leadership positions, we need to be able to speak what is the truth, what is the true position, so that our people can act according to the times, because we are in difficult seasons. We are in difficult times for the entire world, not only Kenya. And the solution will not come by burning what we have, by destroying what it will not happen. Everybody thinks building on what other governments have done, we were expected to have a breakthrough in this other 10-year period.
Yeah.
Irrespective of which president came, we were expected Kenya now to start
at least develop.
But now if we start destroying that, it will slow our momentum again. And then nobody knows. If you start spiraling down, then you don't know
how
where
far you go.
Exactly. Yeah.
You know, it was very unfortunate that there was a gentleman whose supermarket, I think it was in Kitengela, the supermarket was looted. This is a man who has invested his money there. This is probably what he hoped he was going to bequeath his children, take care of his family using this. Looted and everything destroyed. This is not helping in bringing the cost of living down. And so even as we go, because the time is up, even as we bring the curtains down on this show, we need to ask ourselves serious questions, really serious questions. Okay, I destroy somebody's property, I hurt somebody, I stone a car, I do whatever it is that, you know, some of the guys that the government is saying are goons have done. How have I benefited the country? You've had somebody's family, you've had somebody's son, you've killed somebody's family member, you've thrown that family into an experience they probably have never had before. So we need to take care of this country. Let us not think that we are immune to what countries like Somalia, Sudan, Libya have gone through. DRC has never known peace. We are not immune. And it's all in our hands. It's what we decide to do. It is very easy. It does not take a genius to destroy. It doesn't. It takes a wise man to build. Destroying, even the worst fool can do that. So let us not destroy this country. It's the only country that we have. And with that, we got to bring down the curtains on the show. Do have yourself a lovely evening, and please take care of yourself.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.